Well, hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in. I have a really awesome show for y'all today. Thank y'all so much for spending your Wednesday afternoon with me. As most of y'all know, I have my friend D.A. Roberts here with me today, and I'm going to bring him up in just a minute. We're actually going to be talking about animal attacks across the United States. In particular, a couple of recent attacks over the past year. One of them actually occurred about 2 weeks ago. Some people in the community, in the cryptid community, have suspected that perhaps it could be the work of Dogman or some sort of cryptid. Okay, and I've looked into these. I actually did a remote viewing target this morning, and of one particular case that has been in the news a lot lately concerning an Amazon driver. Okay, so we're going to get into that today. I want everybody in Georgia to come join me this Saturday. I am going to be speaking at the Molina Bigfoot Fest. Okay, so I'm going to be speaking at 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. I'm the first speaker of the day, so y'all get there early. Okay, and come have some fun with me. That's down in Pike County, Georgia. Okay. And I think most of I say most, there's like 4 or 5 of my teammates are going to be down there from ASOG. That's Trey Hudson. Matt Delph is going to be there. Bob Wilson, Daryl Neese, and Kristen. My friend Kristen will be there as well. So you guys come join us. Okay. All right. Well, okay, so there have been all these reports of people being attacked and killed recently by unspecified animal attacks and packs of wild dogs. Okay, it's becoming a little prevalent. Okay, and it's not only in the US. I actually have a report out of Scotland as well of this happening recently. Okay, I have D.A. Roberts here with me today to discuss all this, and let me give him a formal introduction. D.A. Roberts is a cryptozoologist, author, podcaster, and field investigator. Born in Lebanon, Missouri, he now lives in Springfield, Missouri with his wife and sons. For most of his career, D.A. served his community and law enforcement. D.A. has been investigating and researching cryptids for more than 4 decades as the Region 2 director of the North American Dogman Project. D.A. has been featured on numerous podcasts and shows for his writing and his cryptid research. So I would like for you guys to help me welcome Mr. D.A. Roberts. Hey, D.A.
You hear me all right?
Hey. Yeah, well, you're a little bit low, actually. Can you turn your volume up just a little bit? Just a little bit.
How's that?
Oh, yeah, way better. Way better.
Okay.
Are you hearing your echo?
I was trying to avoid that echo, and I think I might have killed it.
Okay. I hope so. Fingers crossed. Well, we're
headphones in.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, D.A., okay, so you can hear me. We're going to get it right. Okay. Yeah. Well, D.A., recently there was a case that was on the news in regards to an Amazon driver who had been
right here in Missouri.
At Missouri, where you live. Yeah. And so I thought maybe today we could talk about it.
Sure. It's about 2.5 hours from where I live.
Okay. Well, let me do this. How about I kind of go over the synopsis of what happened? Okay.
Sure.
So an Amazon driver was killed about 2 weeks ago. I'm going to pull this picture up because I saw this all over the news, and I know I was a little suspicious of this myself. He was found dead in front of a home. Neighbors had noticed an Amazon van was running with the lights on for hours. They called authorities, found the driver dead on scene. Police saw 2 dogs on the property. They heard them in the house. They saw blood on the dog door, and the police officers killed both the dogs on site. But they could not determine exactly if the dogs had caused his death. Okay. The bodies of the two dogs were sent in for testing, but it's going to take about 4 months at least to get the autopsy report back. Okay, to find out exactly what happened to this poor man. The owners were out of town. Now, the two dogs that they claim are responsible for this are a Mastiff, okay, an English Mastiff, and a German Shepherd. And that looks exactly like my dog. I mean, that they could be twins. And my dog's sweet,
just like that one.
Yeah. So you have a Mastiff or had one, looks like that. Several. Yeah, and I've had a couple of German Shepherds, and yes, my dog would defend me till the death. Probably, I would like to think so, but she's not violent. Not to say that other German Shepherds aren't, but yeah, those are the two dogs that were responsible allegedly for this guy's death. Now, I was really kind of intrigued by this story. And so I looked it up this morning, remote viewing. Okay. Like I looked into it and I got some interesting data, DA. Now, what do you know about this case before I go into that?
Well, I obviously know the area and I know the news reports, but I also have a friend of a friend who had a little more insight into the Ray County investigation. And the county coroner said they had never seen a body in his career that was torn up as bad as that one.
Oh, I mean, that's pretty bad. That's really bad. Yeah. I mean, not to say that, two dogs couldn't do that damage to a person, but,
the thing is Mastiffs are not bred for that. There are some Mastiffs that are bred as attack or defense animals, but those are more the ones from like the African Mastiff, the Boer Bell, was bred to defend against lions, but the English Mastiff and the Bull Mastiff were both bred as gamekeepers dogs. They're not they're not bred to be that aggressive or that dangerous. In fact, the Bull Mastiff is trained. Was bred for its ability to find somebody who was poaching and pin them down until the gamekeeper got there. I've had both English and Bull Mastiffs, and my children could go up to those dogs when they were eating and take food out of their mouths, and the dogs just look at them like, "What are you doing that for?" They were just big, lovable goofballs.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, my dog can be a goofball too, my German Shepherd, but a lot of times innocent dogs do get blamed for attacks. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So, and I've seen that out of perhaps, and I know this is very happened 2 weeks ago. So I'm going to try to be gentle talking about these. But there was the two cases out of East Tennessee with Tony Aarons and Amber Miller, I believe was her name. And that happened, I think it was last year. Where they were both attacked on two separate instances, 2 separate days within a month or two of each other, both killed by what was said to be packs of wild dogs.
On both of them. Did I freeze up?
The pack of wild dog? Mm-hmm. Hey.
Did I freeze up or did you?
That was probably me. It was probably me. Yeah, my internet is being wonky.
For a second.
Yeah.
Well, the two individuals from Crook County, Tennessee, I've actually seen the autopsy reports on both of them. And as for the incident here in Missouri, that is not far from, well, actually, it's like 12 miles from where my entire family saw a large creature crossing the road in front of us in our headlights. Me, my wife, my son Noah, and my adopted son Connor, we all saw this thing cross the road. And I'm convinced it was a dog man. It was on all fours. It was way too big to be a mountain lion or a bear. And it was the wrong color for it to be a bear. I mean, it was more of a gray. It was on all fours, and the back would have been 6 inches to a foot taller than the front of my SUV. And when it came out of the corn on the right side of the road, it made eye contact, and I felt like it was looking directly at me. And it maintained eye contact the entire way across the road and into the other cornfield. And it wasn't moving quickly. It didn't feel threatened by us. Our whole sighting was maybe 30 yards, so it was close. And it was about a 40-yard span where it went from corn to corn across the ditches and everything. So we got a good long look at it, and we're all in the car going, "What the hell is that?" But I couldn't really see its facial features because its eye shine was so bright while I was looking in my headlights. So I couldn't really tell you what its head looked like. But the body was definitely built like a predator. At first, I wanted to say mountain lion, but it was way too big, and it was just weird that it kept eye contact the whole time. There's a reason there's a phrase "deer in the headlights." Deer, if it had been a deer, it would have frozen, but it wasn't a deer. It didn't move like a deer, and it spent probably 30 seconds staring at us, and where everybody in the car's like, "What the hell is that?" And the reason I bring that up is it was just a couple weeks prior to the Amazon guy getting killed, and it was only about 12 miles away.
Oh my gosh! Wow. Well, this made the news. Okay, it was national news. This Amazon driver was attacked, and they actually I was watching some of the news shows today right before our show went live, and they were saying the Amazon had changed their policies and was kind of explaining to people that now, when you hit that purchase button, when you order something and it's going to be delivered to your home, that is your kind of contract that says, hey, you're allowed to come on my property. So be sure to put your dogs up. Okay, don't have your dogs out because right away, the 2 dogs were suspected of killing this man that were on that property. Now, whether they did or not, according to my remote viewing data, a large breed of a canine did eat this man or attack him. But according to my data, I'm just going to put it out there. I saw that he had a seizure. Okay, so he had something that happened to him where he was spazzing up with his muscles and things like that. It seemed like that happened before he hit the ground. Okay, so
no, I've seen that happen with people under extreme stress. If it was a dogman type creature and it was approaching him, I could easily see him having a seizure. I've seen people when I was in law enforcement. I've seen people under extreme stress just freeze up and get the shakes. It happens. I mean, extreme stress does bizarre things to people, and you can never know how you're going to react to it until you put in that situation.
That's right. That's right. Well, and also, see, I came up with the name Bo in my data. Okay, now Bo, that was actually the name of my grandparents' dog, and it made me think. My grandparents used to bring in a whole lot of stray dogs into their home. Okay, they live out in the country, and people would drop their dogs off down the road, and they would end up at my grandparents' house. So there was a time where they had over 10 dogs at their house, and there was one dog in particular named Bo. Okay, and he would have seizures occasionally, and one day he had a seizure, and all the dogs jumped on him and tore him to shreds. They killed him. And so when I looked at my data and I saw Bo on there, I thought about that and what happened. It was very traumatic, very sad. But he was killed because he had a seizure. Okay. And the dogs jumped on him because I guess they saw him as being weak or there was something wrong with him. So, in analyzing my data, I was thinking, well, maybe that's what happened to that guy. Maybe he had a seizure and fell down and the dogs jumped on him. Okay. That's not to say I would use this in a court of law. Nobody can use this. It's just, it's just an idea. Okay. Just putting it out there. But
I think it'll be interesting when they finally release the necropsy findings to find out if there was any human flesh in the dog's stomachs. And the real telling point will be if you never hear, if they just don't release it. Because if they don't find human flesh in the stomach of these dogs, you'll probably never know.
Exactly.
It'll just fade away.
It'll just fade like it never happened.
This story will fade from public consciousness. Probably it's already doing it. For the most part, only those of us in the crypto field are still talking about it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm intrigued by it because, like I said, I did look into other cryptid attacks in the past, and that includes Amber Miller and Tony Aarons from last year out
Mm-hmm.
in East Tennessee. Um, theirs was actually blamed on. I think each of them, their character came into question.
Yeah,
Okay, as far as them
and
being
you see that
alcoholics
when
or
you got an animal attack. Why would they bring that up? It's irrelevant.
exactly.
It has nothing to do with why they were attacked by an animal.
Yes.
And to me, it's just a case of them trying to make these people less sympathetic. So people would go, "Oh, it was just a druggie or a drug dealer. Who cares if they got killed?" Um, and, and it's sad, but that is a very valid theory that they might be doing that just to, like you said, assassinate their
Yeah.
character and make them less relatable and make people care less about what happened. But like I said, I've got the autopsy report on both of them, and Amber was missing 40% of her body tissue. 40%. You can't tell me two dogs ate that in a couple hours.
No, I did not come up with that. I remote viewed both of those cases, and I picked up on a large, gigantic animal, and this is where the interesting part comes in. It's very interesting, actually, all of it. But I kept hearing zombie bear, zombie bear, and I was really embarrassed to go on live, internet on my show and say, "Oh, a zombie bear," because I didn't understand what a zombie bear was, and I was a little embarrassed. I'm not gonna lie about that. But what's interesting about that is that one of my viewers sent me an email not too far after that show telling me, well, Jessica, I just came across this video. It was on Israeli News Live on YouTube, and it was talking about, let's see what the title of it is, if I can find it. It was the CIA was requesting funds or to discontinue a project that they had been working on with super soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we're talking about human animal hybrid super soldiers. Okay.
Chimeras.
Yeah, chimeras. But they were claiming, the claims are that there are special forces soldiers, men and women, who volunteered for this project, whose DNA was changed. It was let's see,
Gene splicing.
it was kind of something like that. Yeah, they
Well,
were.
they've been trying that since World War II.
Yeah.
The Nazis had a program where they tried it. The Russians tried to breed what they called the humanzee, or the human ape. They tried to crossbreed humans and chimpanzees and apes to try to breed a super soldier, and the program failed. But this isn't new to hear a government's trying that. I mean, they've been trying it for almost 100 years.
Yeah. Well, this particular program goes back to the 1980s. It has ties to Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. Okay, back when Bill Clinton was a governor in Arkansas. Okay, so let me kind of get to exactly what this program is. Okay, if you guys want to see this, want to look at it, it's on YouTube on Israeli News Live. This is the article that someone sent me, and it's actually a video. It's pretty interesting. I'm just going to put that out there. I'm not saying I know for sure it's real or not, but it seems pretty legit. But they wanted the CIA was actually asking Congress for money. They wanted funding to bring their project to an end because it had gone haywire. Okay, super soldier project. They had it had to do with super soldiers that they had dropped off in China and in Russia, and 17 of these creatures, human hybrid animal creatures, were dropped off in the U.S. in remote locations. They are bear-like and wolf-like, and one of some of them were seen in the Yellowstone National Park, and a ranger was describing how it looked. Special forces men and women had agreed to have their DNA altered into bizarre creatures. They volunteered for this. The goal was to have them turned into human animal hybrids and to reproduce after they were set out in nature, in the wild. Okay. It began when
with what?
With each other. Yeah. So there was men and women, so they could reproduce with each other. They were tracked. They were chipped. They had heart rate monitors on them, according to this article. And I know this is going down the rabbit hole, DA. I know this is, but that's what we do, right? So It's just putting it out there. But they were crossing DNA with a lion, a bear, and a wolf with human DNA. Is what they're claiming. Okay. There's actually a picture from Brazil of one of these creatures, and you guys might have seen this. So there's a graphic warning, everybody. This is a dead creature of some sort. They say this is one of those animals that was made. Okay. And that was, I'm not going to show it for long. We're going to take that down because it's kind of gross. Looks like roadkill, you know. But they say that was one of those creatures that was a human animal. And from what I remember, I think I remember them saying that it was like, this is going to sound weird. It was like human from the waist down. And then like somehow it was able to be like an animal from the waist up, and because they wanted them to be able to reproduce like humans. So I don't know. It's a lot, y'all. It's a lot. So who knows? However, okay, so this is all going to tie into my zombie bear DA. Okay. The guy on the video said that one of these creatures was hit by a truck. The guy who hit one of these got really nervous, turned around to go check on it, and these handlers were there trying to get this animal hybrid out of the road. He thought they were just tourists, but they were actually handlers to get this creature out of there. They requested $10 million to end the project so that they could euthanize their assets. They wanted to go around and kill all of them because they've gotten out of control, because they started having kids, and now the offspring are all over the country right now, wreaking havoc everywhere. So would that make sense, DA? I mean, none of this makes sense.
To an extent.
Yeah.
Especially if they based these genetic models off, say, Dogman or Bigfoot, because, well, Dogman sightings predate any knowledge that our government could have possibly had on genetic manipulation. Some of the earliest Dogman sightings in the United States were French trappers in the late 1600s, early 1700s. So sightings of Dogman-like creatures date back centuries. The Choctaw have legends of the Dogman and Bigfoot actually going to war with each other. So I think if those creatures are out there, they're probably genetic manipulations off existing creatures.
Yeah. Oh, man, we don't know what's being made in these labs and secret facilities, and you know, it doesn't seem natural though, does it? Like,
well, you know, we've seen the government do crap like that before. We never know what they're doing in these black bag operations. But the thing is anything you can imagine, they've probably done worse.
Yeah, I'll say I would agree.
Somewhere tried it.
Yeah, probably. I would have to agree with that. I would. Yeah. Okay. So the video goes on. The guy says, well, they released some of these into Eastern Tennessee, at least 2 of them. So that would be a male and a female. Okay. Mm-hmm. And this would have been back in the 1980s to 1990s. So
the problem with that is one couple is not enough to establish a breeding population.
Yeah.
Not without causing huge genetic, problems.
Oh, that's right.
You can't start a breeding pool off 2 people.
It
just wouldn't work.
However,
if they were close enough to Dogman or something similar, and then they could interbreed with that population, and maybe that was the goal all along.
Maybe so.
Special forces here's the thing: special forces have always been known as a force multiplier. They will drop special forces into regions where they have armed conflicts, and they will train the local population to fight the way they fight. So when they're put into an area, they're a small force, but they can immediately start increasing the size of their force by incorporating the local populace.
Oh my gosh.
If you apply that to what they genetically modified, they could have easily inserted a Dogman-like creature into a Dogman clan to become a force multiplier. So,
oh my God, DA, do we just open a can of worms? Yeah.
Tinfoil under my hat there, but that's to me, that would be what they would be trying to accomplish. If they took 2 special forces operatives, male and female, and modified them to be Dogman-like creatures and released them to East Tennessee, where there are lots of known Dogman sightings, considering the training that the level the special forces would have, and still maintaining their human level intellect, they could easily take over as the alphas of a pack. And next thing you know, force multiplier, the succeeding generations get special forces level training. And then you would find these things almost impossible to kill.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's not terrifying at all. Not at all.
Now, again, this is a whole tinfoil hat, way
It
down the
is.
rabbit hole theory. But
It
if
is.
your information is correct and the government did modify special forces soldiers with this ability, with this genetics to make them look like a wolf or a bear or something like that, to me, that would be why.
Yeah. And that means that our government would have knowledge of dogmen already and all
I
these
believe
other
they've
weird
had knowledge
things.
of cryptids for a long time.
Yeah.
You've heard my Teddy Roosevelt theory, correct?
What is that? I
Oh, you
believe I
haven't heard
probably
it?
have. No, please do.
Okay, let's run down the rabbit hole here.
Okay. Hey, we're
Okay.
already in one rabbit hole. Let's go down as many as we can before this hour's over.
Okay, well, this is my crazy
Okay.
theory.
Okay.
But I think if you bear with me for a second, it makes a lot of sense. One of the earliest known accounts we have on record of a Bigfoot attack and killing a human is the Bauman incident. And I'm sure you're familiar with the Bauman incident. Well, the Bauman incident was recorded in Teddy Roosevelt's book, The Wilderness Hunter. Teddy Roosevelt actually was the first person to record that story. Now, lots of us podcasters and authors and cryptozoologists have investigated the Bauman incident, but nobody's ever found that valley. But lots of us have talked about the Bauman incident over the last decades. But the thing is Teddy Roosevelt did it first. Now, my relatives are all hillbillies. I mean, I grew up in the sticks of Missouri, and I've collected a lot of stories from cousins and people I know that live out in the sticks. And you don't get that level of detail out of a hillbilly or a mountain man. This is what I saw, this is what happened, that kind of thing. But what the streams were like, what the camping was like, those are details you just don't get because they don't see them as being important to the story. Those are details you get out of an eyewitness.
Yeah.
As in being, the person who saw it. Those are the level of details you get when you see it, not when the story comes to you second or third hand. Now, if we take that as a given, which I believe we can safely, that means that Bauman incident, Teddy Roosevelt was Bauman. Well, at the time, he still had political aspirations, and he didn't want to, and people thinking he was crazy that he saw some monster out in the woods. So he writes the story as a piece of fiction and puts it in his book. Now, if you followed me down that rabbit hole so far, and you understand that or agree with me, and there's a lot of people that do agree with me that Teddy Roosevelt was likely Bauman himself.
Wow.
So if you accept that, flash forward to Teddy Roosevelt as president, what's one of the first things he did?
I'm not sure. You tell me.
He created the National Park Service and cordoned off millions of acres to keep us out of areas where we're not allowed to hunt, and in a lot of cases, not even allowed to go.
Exactly. Wildlife management areas, national parks. I mean, how many times have we gone into national parks and the forest roads are shut down for no apparent reason?
In the 411 cases.
In the missing 411 cases, I mean,
I think the National Park Service was created to give these large predators a habitat and never admit they were there. I think the government has known they were out there for a very long time, and they will not admit that knowledge because that would make them culpable in all these disappearances.
Oh my gosh. I agree with that. And it's interesting. Isaac 9, he says Tennessee volunteers. So maybe there were some volunteers to become chimeras in Tennessee.
Well, if you like my Teddy Roosevelt theory, feel free to use it. It's something I've been talking about for about a year now.
I think that would be that's awesome, DA. I've not heard that before. Now I am familiar with him taking all that land and making it into national parks. I love that the land is preserved, but I also don't like that we don't have access to all of that.
Well, we know for a fact that Teddy Roosevelt was a huge outdoorsman. He hunted literally everything you could hunt, and it makes perfect sense that he would go out into the backcountry, especially in Wyoming and Montana, looking for some big game. And for him to record the Bauman incident with that level of detail tells me he was there.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I go out. I was actually at a national park this past weekend. I went Bigfooting with Nana Boss. Nana Boss is in the chat today. Hey, Marty.
Hi, Marty.
Yeah, I went with her and her son Matt Williamson from Supernatural Spectrum. We spent the weekend up in North Georgia. And Yeah, we went to a national park up there and did some. We did a little research. Let me tell you, we had a lot of activity, DA, a lot. Something very profound happened to us.
I'd love to hear about it. If you
Yeah,
can't talk about it on the air, I get it.
I can't. Well, Matt is doing a documentary, so we're not going to talk about it on air. But I can say there was Bigfoot activity and ET involvement with it as well.
Really?
Yeah. So the national parks, y'all, they're full of surprises. Okay. In addition to missing people clusters. So just be
the ones
careful.
that go missing in the national parks that I find the most compelling, and this is from an almost 20-year career in law enforcement, are one, the dogs. When you involve tracking dogs and they refuse to track, I've worked with tracking dogs. They don't do that. Those dogs live for the track. They cannot wait to get off leash and get out there and start tracking. These dogs love that. And if a dog will lay down and refuse to track, there's a major problem. It's something the dog's terrified of and they're not wanting to follow it. And I've never seen that happen in my law enforcement career. Now, there are multiple cases of that happening in the missing 411 cases with tracking dogs just, nope, done, going to the car. I'm not tracking this. And the other ones are the hunters, the missing 411 hunters. Most of these cases are hunters that have hunted the same area for years and years, and they were armed, yet they went missing without a trace and nothing was ever found of them. Now, if you look over to taking accounts from people, and I've taken dozens of firsthand accounts from people where they had, in fact, Anthony, one of my co-hosts, Anthony Canatella, on my show, he had the same thing happen. He had his rifle scope, his crosshairs on a Bigfoot, and he didn't take the shot because he said it looked too human. Now, I think the missing 411 hunters took the shot.
You do?
I think that's what happened. I think they took the shot and it killed them.
Wow. Yeah, it's an absolute possibility. And I've heard that before from multiple sources that they do look too human. And even with dogman as well, people that have encountered dogmen say that dogmen looks them right in their eyes. Like, I can tear you to shreds if I want, that kind of a thing. So,
well, I've talked to a lot of people who said they took a shot at a Bigfoot or took a shot at a dogman, and they always have the same thing. They say the same thing. I know I hit it. I'm a good shot. Now, if you compare that to police data, and this is something I learned years ago in the academy, during extreme stress situations, and I would count that as an extreme stress situation when you've got a cryptid coming at you.
Yeah.
Law enforcement, these are trained marksmen, people who are trained to operate under fire. During high stress situations where you're being shot at, critical incidents, law enforcement's marksmanship will drop to less than 10%. And they're trained for that. They're trained to be in the thick of that fire. Now, somebody that's not had that level of training, that's most of their target hunting, shooting has been target hunting and targeting and target shooting and shooting deer. Suddenly shooting something in a high stress situation, I'm going to guess they probably missed and thought they hit, because I can tell you when you put it out there, just that much pressure on your trigger is what you're going for. But if you twist your hand any at all at 25 to 30 yards, just that much will be the difference between a hit and a miss.
Wow. Not much leeway there at all.
Right.
Yeah. Well, DA space exposure in chat was saying that if was it Roosevelt, right? We did that to protect the underground bases. Do you think there could have been bases already in the national parks back then in those areas?
Maybe if they were using large cave systems. We just didn't have the technology to dig that deep into that big of a scope. Now, we had mining, but it was mostly done with dynamite and pickaxes. Look how long it took them to dig tunnels for railroad back then. So I don't think they were building large scale facilities unless it was building in a large cave system. But today, what once took years to dig, we can do in a matter of months. I mean, there's a storage facility here in Springfield called the Springfield Underground. And I years ago, before I was a cop, I worked security down there. And I can tell you, when I worked down there, that network of man-made caverns was massive. There are warehouses down there for lots of storage, and they've been expanding it for the last 30 years.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot going on underground that we're supposed to be unaware of. So, but I seem to pick up on it a lot when I'm remote viewing. There's always some kind of facility or underground base. Now, speaking of caves, there's something that lives in a cave, and it's called a bear. They go and sleep in caves sometimes, right, DA?
Mhm.
And there's something that I came across when I was trying to figure out what a zombie bear is. What the heck is a
Mhm.
zombie bear? Okay, what could have attacked those two people in East Tennessee? Well, I came across something called barilla. Okay, barilla, and this is no laughing matter. Okay, this is a big old bear, a bear gorilla wolf hybrid or something like that. Da, now are you familiar with barilla?
Yeah, and I think may have a possible sort of explanation.
Okay.
Um, the Lakota refer to would recall the gugway the bear man because it has a snout.
Oh,
It's built like a gorilla, but it's got a snout and walks upright like a bear. I think these barilla or possibly zombie bear sightings may be misidentified gugway, and we know for a
wow.
fact that gugway are very dangerous, and they will take people.
Wow. Well, okay, so when I came up with the zombie bear, okay, so
Mhm.
this is here's a picture of what I would think a zombie bear would look like. Okay, let's see. There it is. It was just like a dead bear, but because I didn't know what a zombie bear was. That's just some cartoon I found. But Barry Littleton was making a connection from the way I described it as the Dewey Lake Monster. Okay,
Mhm.
now this is something that's regional. It could be like a gugway, DA. I'm not real familiar with the Dewey Lake Monster. Are you familiar?
Not as much as I would
Hmm.
like, but just looking at this basic description, I can see how somebody under extreme stress would describe something like this. But if you look at the snout and look at the claws and look at the way it stands, I would immediately think either Gugway or Dogman, just with the proportions off because of stress. One thing I learned as a cop, if you have a critical incident, let's say you had an armed robbery and 5 people saw it, when you interview the 5 people, you're going to get 5 different descriptions of the perpetrator. It happens every time.
Oh yeah. Wow. Well, that's interesting. Very interesting. Okay. Well, this barilla, uh, there's some documentaries on this barilla, and it's in Kentucky. Okay, mostly spotted in Kentucky. And I was listening to a report. This reporter was talking about it. She was talking about the farm animals in the area were getting mauled to death. Okay,
Mhm.
it was over about a 5 week span, and it appears that a large animal, was killing all these farm animals for sport. Okay, it wasn't like it was for like they were hungry, because it was ripping off their face and their ears and all this other. It's kind of bad, but it's very bad, and it was all happening under the cover of nighttime. But
Mhm.
the animals weren't really being fed upon; they were just being hunted and slaughtered.
That sounds more like dogman behavior than Sasquatch behavior.
Hmm.
Sasquatch, when they come to a farm, if they want something, they'll just take it, pick it up, and carry it off. Even if it's a cow, I mean, they can kill it and drag it off. Uh, Now, however, dogmen have been known to kill an entire flock of sheep just because they can.
Oh wow, yeah, that's what they call bears, teddy bears. Oh my
Just
gosh,
like
like
Teddy
Teddy
Roosevelt.
Roosevelt. Yeah, well, I wonder if they got Teddy zombie bears. Just kidding.
Now, Build a Bear Workshop will probably build it.
The Build a Bear. Oh my gosh, I need to recommend that. Please stock up with zombie bears. I'll buy one. I really will. I need to do a zombie bear. I need to sell those in my on my website one day, maybe. We'll
There you
see.
go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, someone was in the chat. Okay, someone just asked about the five type. Joe just asked about the 5 types of dogmen. Well, I think that I just happen to have um, a chart with different types of dogmen on here. Now, Dia, you are one of the regional directors of the North American Dogman Project.
Mm-hmm. I'm the
Uh,
Region 2 director, which covers the Midwest. Now, I'm not exactly certain who put this chart together,
uh-huh.
uh, but to me, the Type 3 Variant 1 and the Type 3 Variant 3 are probably just misidentified gugway. I would throw them out completely. The
Okay.
Type 3 Variant 2, from the look of the face, looks like it might be just another angle of one of the ones below. So I think the only ones that are credible dogmen are the bottom 4, because those are the ones we primarily get descriptions of from eyewitness accounts. The upper ones, when they describe them being more primate like, I think those are just misidentified gugway, because a large upright creature with a snout, people aren't going to go Bigfoot. And most people who aren't into cryptids have never even heard the term gugway. So they'd be like, oh, it can't be a Bigfoot, it's got a snout. So I think that's why these have got lumped in with it. But honestly, I think the only ones that I would consider true dogmen are the bottom four. The one Nick Valente and I saw in LBL looked very much like the Canine variant 3 down at the bottom.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so when I was doing looking into that the LBL family that got killed there back in the 1980s, the ones that the two that I saw were more kind of the variant 3 at the bottom mixed with the hyena type. It kind of looked like,
well, the one I saw, Canine variant 3 is the closest to the one that Nick and I saw, but the snout was blunter and wider. So it's the Canine variant 3 picture they're using there is just the werewolf from Van Helsing. That's all that is. But it's the closest I can give you a description of. It wasn't that like super jacked, ripped like the werewolf from Van Helsing, but the head shape was more like that, like a wolf / German Shepherd kind of, with a more blunt snout. It was standing, leaning against a tree. It had its right arm against the tree, and was watching us as we drove by. And it was the movement of the head that gave it away, because I was kind of panning the area and didn't see it. But when the head moved to follow us, that's when I turned and looked at it. And I'm like, I was literally punching Nick in the shoulder, telling him to stop. And I had my camera in my hand, my phone in my hand, just like this, with the camera app up, looking to film something.
Yeah.
And when I saw it, that was completely the last thing I thought of. I didn't even think about it. Nick and I, like idiots, slammed on the brakes and dove out and went after it.
Of course, y'all did.
Unarmed, which also was brilliant.
But
when it
unarmed,
I saw
Nick
it,
was unarmed. Has Nick ever been unarmed?
It was in the car, but he didn't grab it when we jumped out. So
that does not sound like him.
So as this thing realizes I've seen it, I get a good look at it for 10, 15 seconds. Well, probably 15 to 20 seconds. And I would bet Nick saw it for about 10 before it realized, oh shit, they're looking at me. And it turned and it did kind of a weird loping bound. That about 30 yards away was a ravine that dropped down pretty steep. And it kind of went boom, boom, boom like that. It didn't go in a straight line. It kind of bounded side to side. And in 3, maybe 4 bounds, it was down in that ravine.
Wow.
And Nick and I ran over to the tree, and I could tell from where its hand was, it was just slightly above my head. So I estimated the thing to be about 6.5 to 7 feet tall, because I'm just shy of 6 foot. And from the length of the stride, I couldn't duplicate the stride, but the ground was hard packed and had a lot of leaf litter. So there's no tracks to cast. But I could not duplicate the stride. It was way too big for me. And Nick's like, "You want to go after it?" And I'm looking down that ravine. I'm like, no, I don't. And we could still hear it like smacking through the trees way down there. Like, 1, we're not going to catch it. And 2, you're not dragging me back out of there without a winch. So, we're like, he's like, you know what? Neither of us are armed. Maybe we ought to go back to the car.
I know.
So
oh my God.
I would back to the car, and we're talking about it, just kind of sitting there shook up for a bit. It was pretty intense.
I would, of course, I am a researcher, and I do chase the cryptids. However, I don't know. I think it'd be fun to observe a dogman, but maybe not chase after one. I don't know.
My mother told me when I was a small child that I would blunder in where angels feared to tread. And that's kind of been the hallmark of my life. My law enforcement career was that way. Pretty much everything I've ever done. I've never wanted to be the second guy through the door. When I was on the riot team, I'm like, I'm taking point. They're like, okay, you can have point. I never wanted to be the second guy through the door. In fact, my last chief out at Walnut Grove, he's like, if we kick a door, you're going first. I'm like, what are you punishing me? That's where I want to be anyway. So I've always been the guy that would just run toward crap. Kind of an idiot like that.
Yeah.
And
no, but like it's more adventurous.
With a cryptid instead, whereas most people would be tucking tail and running, I'm trying to get closer. Unless, of course, it's a situation where it's threatening me or other people, then we'll start backing off. but if it turns and is walking away, I'm going to follow it. That's just how I'm wired. I'm an idiot like that.
Yeah. Well, it makes life more fun, DA. I have not encountered a dog man in person before. Do you think that they have a human quality about them? Like when they look at you, if they were to look at you in your eyes, do you think that they have somewhat of a human way of thinking?
Well, I've seen what I believe is two. The one that I saw up near Lexington, Missouri, and the one we saw in LBL. And both times, when I was looking at it, it was looking back at me.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've seen wolves in the wild. I've seen bears in the wild. I've seen mountain lions. I've seen everything you can possibly run into in North America that is a known animal. And I have never once felt like when I saw any of these animals, like it was studying me as much as I was studying it. And that's how I felt both times seeing Dogman.
Yeah.
I felt like it was watching me just as much as I was watching it. Now, I was hiking with some buddies up in Rocky Mountain National Park, and we rounded a corner, and there was a grizzly bear in the trail. And it was like, it was, the little thing you do with the dog when your dog's looking at you, just go boop and boop them on the nose.
Oh, yeah.
I should have done that to the bear. I mean, we were almost nose to nose. And the first thing I said was, I told my buddies, whatever you do, don't run. And of course, I heard, and I'm like, well, great. I'm standing here nose to nose with this bear. And we kind of looked at each other.
Oh, my gosh.
Me and I looked at it, and it went, ugh, and it turned and walked off the trail. Now, had that been close to hibernation time, or if it just been woken up from its hibernation, it would have eaten me, guaranteed. There was nothing I could have done.
Wow.
I could have went, boop, got your nose.
Oh, my gosh.
It probably would have been the end of me. But I was close enough where I could have done that. And the bear was just like, nope, not on the menu today, buddy. And he walked off. And I turned and went back and got really, really angry at my buddies for leaving me there. But this is one of those incidents where you can have a nose-to-nose encounter with a wild animal, and it go completely, nobody gets hurt. But
That's
under
right.
the right circumstances, that could have been fatal. And I think that's the same with a lot of cryptids, and not necessarily with dogmen. I think dogmen are just nasty, but you can have a close encounter with a cryptid, and both of you go your separate ways and nobody get hurt. Now, I think with dogman, I don't think it's going to work out quite that way, or with gugway, because they're both very dangerous predators. I think if I gotten close enough to boop a gugway on the nose, you never would have heard from me again, or a dogman for that matter. But again, I got off on a tangent, and I apologize. But what I was saying about the dogman is it was the two sightings that I believe firmly were both dogmen. I felt like it was studying me just as much as I was studying it. There was an intelligence there, not just animal intelligence, because sometimes I can say certain words, my dog will go. So I know he understands. He's got a pretty big vocabulary. He knows what certain words are, like outside and treat and scratch. You say certain words, he gets excited. So he understands those words. Like treat, yeah. But dogman, it wasn't like that. It was not, oh, I got that reference. It was, I'm looking at you and sizing you up. Can I kill you?
Or do you taste good?
Yeah. What am I going to do with you? And do I think I can get close to you before you can hurt me? And that's the way it works in the animal kingdom. There's a whole risk analysis goes when they're looking at prey. It is far easier to attack something that is weak or injured than it is to attack something that's in its prime. That's why wolves will always attack the weakest link in the herd. That's why lions do the same thing. They will pick out the slowest or the weakest and go after that one, because there are no vets in the wild that will come up and go, oh, let me fix that boo-boo for you. If they get a bad injury with fighting for a meal, they could die. Injuries in the wild, if it's a bad enough injury and that wound turns septic, the predators, the scavengers are coming after you, and the wound's going to kill you. So that's why these creatures do a very complex risk analysis. Is this meal worth the risk? And I think both times I saw that, I don't think it thought it was worth the risk. With me and Nick, is because there was two of us and one of it. Now, granted, hand to hand, it still would have kicked both of our butts, but we were in a vehicle. And the one we saw that was crossing the road up by Lexington, Missouri, one, there were four of us in the car, and three of the four of us were armed. And I guarantee you, if it was catching our scent, because I'm at window partially down, if it was catching our scent, it was smelling gun oil. because there was in the car.
Yeah, well, you guys always come prepared. And as far as your experience with the bear, that's a real life threat that we have as researchers out when we're out in the woods and in the mountains and the field. And so when I was getting ready for the show today, I decided to look up animal attacks, okay, on people across the United States. And so I found this map, and this goes back to 2013. This is over 10 years old, okay. But actually, if you look at the data from today, it's about the same. These are the states where you're most likely to die from an animal attack. My state's one of the red ones. I'm in Georgia. Okay.
Missouri's pretty dark, but not quite
Missouri's dark.
Georgia or Texas.
Yeah. Well, I also went a step further, and I typed up a chart, y'all. DA, I got a chart. I typed this up today. States with the most deaths caused by animals over the past 50 years. Okay, this is recent. Texas is number 1, California, Florida, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and New York. Okay. Now, what are the animals that are most likely to kill you? Okay, over the past 50 years in the U.S., we have the brown bear is number 1. Okay. And this includes Alaska and Hawaii, of course. I don't know how many brown bears they have in Hawaii, but I know in Alaska they got some.
Probably none.
Yeah, probably none. But they have sharks. Okay. So sharks is number 2. Snake bites. Now, my friend Chris Harper, he's gone out with my team a whole bunch. He's a snake bite expert and venomous snake expert. He can tell you any kind of snake bite, tell you exactly what to do when it happens and how much anti-venom you need. So that's the go-to if I ever get bit by a snake. Okay. And he teaches classes with Georgia Bushcraft and stuff on snake bites. Okay. So we got black bear, alligators. I'm assuming that'd be down the swamps. But cougars, polar bears, that's not in Hawaii either. Okay.
Black bears is one that surprises me, because I've seen tons of black bears in the wild. They're generally not aggressive. Now, I know they're more than capable of killing a person. There are cases here in Missouri where people were feeding them off their porch, and when they tried to stop feeding them, things got nasty. So they're definitely capable of doing it. But every black bear I've ever encountered, I just made a loud noise and it was like, oh shit, and took off.
Takes off. Well, what does that remind you of, though? How about people gifting Sasquatch and giving them food?
A really bad idea. There are lots of stories of people who left food for one and it followed them home. These things are very good trackers. They can track over long distances. I think the bad thing is I think having any wild animal, and that includes cryptids, having them associate people with food is a bad idea, because you might go years leaving donuts and apples and stuff out on a stump in the woods and be perfectly fine. And the creatures, the Bigfoot or the dogman in that area, get used to these little gifts left out there, and they come to expect it. Now, what happens with some hiker comes along with his music in, listen to Fleetwood Mac, and he's bipping along and passes that and doesn't leave food, something's going to get pissed. Hey, this jackass didn't pay the toll, or this guy didn't leave any food. Get him. It is a bad idea to get any large animal to associate humans with food. And we've seen this happen here in Missouri on a number of occasions with people that were feeding black bears. One lady was leaving food out, and she went in the hospital. And when she came home, multiple black bears had ripped the back part of her house off and just destroyed it, going inside looking for food.
Oh my!
These are very strong animals, and there are videos of bears coming up, and even a black bear, which is not the biggest of bears, but they'll still easily weigh 300-400 pounds. They'll go up to a door and put their paws on it and just start rocking their weight into it. And not many doors are designed to withstand that kind. They'll just smash their way inside in seconds. Now imagine that with a brown bear who weighs closer to 1,000 pounds. That back door is going to be kindling in seconds. It's a bad idea to get any wild animal, and I am including cryptids with this. It's a very bad idea to get them to associating you with food.
Yeah. I actually kind of worry about being in some of those national parks sometimes, because I know places like there's a few Bigfoot hotspots, national parks. I'm not going to name them because I know I have friends that go and research there. I don't want to attract a crowd. Okay. But however, at some places, people will leave like big chunks of meat and stuff for the Sasquatches near where people camp out. Okay. And so
That's a
that
bad
can
idea.
be dangerous, right?
That is a very bad idea, because you leave raw meat anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
Sasquatch is not the only predator that's going to smell it. You could just have put somebody's children at risk. You get a pack of wolves coming in looking for blood. They smell blood and they see a 3-year-old bipping along 20 yards from their parents. That's a quick snack.
Yeah.
Wolves have taken people down. Of course, you get if somebody's leaving that out close to hibernation season at the end of the year when the weather's turning cold and a bear is looking to put on pounds, it's not going to stop with that 6 ounces of sirloin you put out. It's going to grab whatever meat source is close by. It very well could be a camper.
Yeah.
Again, bad idea. Really, really bad idea to leave food out for any animal, including cryptids. If you want to do gifting, fine. Put some shiny rocks out. Put marbles. Put a Hot Wheel and see what happens. But
Yeah.
leaving food, the only thing you're really going to do is make it very, very dangerous for anybody that lives close to that area or happens to be passing through.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I worry about that sometimes. So, I mean, there is a really cool video though of a Bigfoot creeping along to go pick up, I think it was a baby Ruth or something off of a tree stump. Have you seen that video from a while
Yeah,
back? Yeah,
yeah, I
that's
remember
kind of
that.
cool. Yeah.
It's neat, but again, what happens the next time you come out there and you didn't bring anything?
Yeah, they're going to come after you, I guess. I don't
And
know. I don't leave food. Even when we
yeah, I
were up
wouldn't
in the
either.
mountains this weekend, I was kind of joking around about, well, I guess I had an apple in my bag. I could have left an apple, but my team, we don't leave apples out. We don't leave anything out for the
I
Bigfoots.
think it's
We've
a
never
dangerous
made it.
practice.
Yeah,
I think
we've
it really is.
never done
I've
that.
never left anything out. Um, I wouldn't even put like shiny marbles or anything or shiny rocks. I wouldn't put anything out as a gift, because I don't want it to start thinking we have some sort of relationship and get pissed off if I don't leave something, because we don't know what that means to them. Um, what you may leave in as a sign of good faith, like, oh, I just want to leave him this shiny rock. Uh,
Yeah.
it might look at that and go, okay, uh, what does this mean? We don't understand their thought process. It's the same reason I don't do uh, calls. I don't go out and do whoops
Hmm.
and howls, because when I talked to Ron Moorhead when we had him on our show, he had his Sierra sounds analyzed by the Navy cryptolinguist, uh,
Yeah. R. Scott
and
Nelson.
yeah,
Yeah.
and what he discovered is that the vocal range of this creature was both above and below what human voice boxes are capable of producing. So if you're trying to make some sort of whoop or yell, you're only yelling in a fraction of their range. So they're instantly going to know it isn't one of them. And the
Oh,
other thing is you don't
yeah.
know what you're saying. I mean, if it's the equivalent of listening to the London Philharmonic Orchestra on one headphone, you're not going to get all the nuances. You're not going to get the stereo. You're not going to get the full sound of this orchestra. You're only going to have one earphone. So if you're trying to call blast or scream, they're only hearing like a portion of it. So it'd be like you either yelling muffled or yelling gibberish, because it's not their full range. And the same thing with tree knocks. I don't do those because we don't know what the hell it means. I mean, you could be ringing the dinner bell or saying, "Hey, f you," or
Yeah.
go away. We don't know. We don't know what it means. We've got a lot of theories about what it means, but I think it's a bad idea, because again, you don't know what message you're sending. The best results I have ever had going out into some of these places doing research was just setting up camp and letting them come to us. It
Exactly.
works every time.
Hmm.
And my uncle, who married, he was my uncle by marriage. He married my mother's sister. He was full blood Cherokee. One of the best things I ever learned from him, and this applied to hunting as much as it did to cryptid hunting, because I applied these lessons to later doing cryptid hunting, was the first thing you do when you go into an area is just sit down and be quiet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same thing. It works perfectly with hunting. It works with fishing. Just get in tune to the area around you. Start noticing. Just be quiet. Just no music, no conversation. Just sit there and listen. And the sounds around you will eventually return to normal, and you'll understand what normal is for that area. and it puts you on a much higher alert when those sounds change.
Wow.
I think you've probably experienced this as much as I am, many
Mm-hmm.
times as I have. You go out to an area and the night sounds just go dead. Suddenly everything's completely quiet. That is what my uncle used to refer to as a butt puckering moment when the woods go dead quiet.
Yes.
Like there is something out here.
Yeah.
So that's one of the lessons I've taken to heart is that if I go into a new area, especially a place I've never been before, the first thing I do is set for a minimum of 45 minutes to an hour, sometimes as much as 2 hours, just listening to the place around me.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, DA, and that's what my team does too. And the funny thing is, if the team disperses at night to go out and everybody goes off into small teams, we always have somebody that stays back at base camp to man the radio. And
Big Texas just said something. Before I forget, I want to point that out. He says, I call blast predators at night, but I haven't called in dogman yet, though. Funny thing about that, it's not something I want to go into detail on air yet, but wounded rabbit brought something in LBL very close.
Oh.
Don't know what it was, didn't get a chance to see it, but it was one of those, I think I'm in danger moments, because it was way too big to be a coyote or a wolf. And supposedly there are no wolves in LBL, but distressed rabbit, yeah.
You had a butt pokering moment.
Yeah, I had one of those coming to Jesus moments, like, baby, I ought to be somewhere else right now.
Oh my gosh! Well, now we know what calls them in. If you want to call in a dog man, it's probably going to be
LBL
sounds. Yeah, not the LBL though. I think I'll stay away from that place if I can help it.
The really brilliant part about that was our first night in LBL. My wife and my son were at the condo, and I was out in LBL, in the north part of LBL at night by myself. It was before Nick got there, and that was one of those moments where I was like, this is probably not the smartest idea I have ever had.
Well, you go for the full experience.
Rabbit, if you want to try something and you got an area of activity, distressed rabbit.
Yeah, the distressed rabbit. Well, I'm going to keep that in my bag of tricks. But what I was gonna say was about the one person staying back at base camp while everybody else goes out and does their thing out in the woods at night. There's more activity that happens at base camp usually than there is for the people hiking around the woods at night. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I feel like the Bigfoots, the ETs, whatever's out there, they like to come and observe and see what's going on where we are. We're out there chasing them. Well, they're just out there to look at us.
And the whole thing about observation is if you're out there to study and observe, walking around making a lot of noise is not how you observe.
It's not. That's right. That's and so my advice would be just to go sit at base camp. Okay, set up camp, have a fire, get a cooler out, grill some hot dogs and just hang out. And you're going to have probably more than likely have some activity at your base camp, depending upon where you are and what your intentions are.
I have two very different forms of going out in the woods. There's the going camping just for enjoyment, and there's the going camping to see what we can hear. When we're doing observations, when we're trying to see what we can find, there's never ever any alcohol involved. The only time I ever drink when I'm out in the woods is if we're just out there having a good time. And then, I'm 52 years old. My days of drinking until I'm blackout drunk are way behind me. Back when I was in the Army, like an idiot. Yeah. I'll have a couple of beers and I'm good. But I don't even do that when we're doing anything with cryptids.
Oh yeah, it could be dangerous.
I don't want anything to color people's perceptions of my observation.
Right. Yeah, it could be very dangerous, actually. Right. So you want to have all your wits about you when you're out there dealing with cryptids, especially 9-foot tall dogmen and Sasquatch. Okay.
Primal Cry's got a good one. It says bingo, intention. Intent is a lot of it. If you go out in the woods looking for trouble, you're going to find it. That's something my uncle told me as a kid. When I first started hunting, he said how you approach nature is everything when it comes to your survival in the woods. If you go out there thinking you're the master of nature and you're in charge, it's going to show you you're not. Even when I go out to hunt, when I would go deer hunting, I always went out with very, very, very much respect and gratitude for the land. if you go out there with the intent, like I'm out here, I'm going to kill something, you're never going to have an encounter because they will sense that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And we want to avoid any kind of ill intentions against any of these cryptids. And we got to stay safe out there, DA. And that's what this show was about today, was going over these alleged, animal attacks, pack of wild dogs. Some of them actually, I do believe, were a cryptid type of being was involved. The zombie bear guy, woman, maybe both, I don't know. And so, yeah, we just want everybody to be safe out in the woods. Be aware of your surroundings. Just have some situational awareness at all times.
Don't forget to look up.
And don't forget to look up. That's a great point. Never forget to look up, especially in the trees, right? The trees and the sky for UFOs.
Like what I like to tell people on our channel is there's lots of things out there that can and will kill you that have nothing to do with cryptids. You've got bears, you've got mountain lions, you've got snakes, wolves, coyotes. There are lots of animals out there that can and will kill you. Mountain lions will drop on you from above. They're an ambush predator. Then let's not forget about the greater North American meth head. I mean, you might run into somebody with an illegal pot grow out and get yourself shot. Be careful. Take a med kit. Take something to defend yourself and come home safely.
Yeah. Yes. And Nicholas, that's Big Texas in here. He wanted to know if you'd heard about the Dogman attack in Lipan. I'm sure you have, DA. I actually remote viewed that. Yeah. Lipan, Texas.
You might have to refresh my memory on that one.
Yeah, I believe that is the one that I remote viewed, actually. Let's see. Here it is. Yeah. The Hood County Sheriff's Department.
Okay.
Christopher Whiteley. Yeah. He was 28 years old. They closed the case because it was an animal attack. They were claiming it was a mountain lion. And when I looked into that, it actually was a mountain lion. It was some sort of like a panther, or I believe it was something black. I think I have pictures.
Melanistic panthers have been cited in Missouri for...
Well, they have something called the jaguardi or something like that.
Yeah. Those might be coming up from Mexico. A lot of Border Patrol are starting to see more jaguars and stuff coming up, returning to North America when they haven't been here in 100 years or more.
Yeah, they're creeping back up. You know what I find
dangerous?
Yeah, they are. They're very deadly. Okay, and
a bobcat will tear you up, and as big cats go, it's not a real big one, but it'll still mess you up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was actually a kind of an unspecified animal attack. So I was planning on talking about that today if we got a chance. But I did pick up that was actually, it was some sort of a panther or a mountain lion. Even though people think it was a dog man, right?
Sorry, I got off on tangents and ate up a lot of the time.
Oh no, it was perfect. We talked about what we needed to, and I've already done a show on all that. So Nicholas, Big Text, if anybody wants to see that, you can go to my playlist, look up my remote viewing investigation shows, and that's under unspecified animal attacks on that show. You guys, I did a whole show. It was really awesome. And yeah, DA, thank you so much for being here with me today. And
do you mind if I plug my show tonight?
Please. No, I was about to ask you to. Yeah, please.
If you guys enjoyed listening to me blather on, you want to hear me talk about cryptids more, I have my own show. It's called DA Ex Machina. We're on every Wednesday and Saturday night. We'll be on tonight. You'll find us here on YouTube. Make sure you give us a like and subscribe. Tonight's guest, we're going to be talking Bigfoot with Cameron Buckner from Dixie Cryptids. It's going to be a great show. Hope you guys will join in. We'll be talking about Bigfoot and all kinds of stuff. But you can find us here on YouTube at DA Roberts Author, or look up the DA Ex Machina podcast. Hopefully you'll be part of the DA Ex Machina Nation. So we'd love to have you as part of our group. So make sure you head over there and hit the like, subscribe, and share button for Jessica's channel as well.
Thank you.
So hopefully we'll see you guys tonight.
Yeah. And DA also has a lot of books he's written. What do you have, like almost 30 books printed right now? Yeah. So you guys go check out all his series that he has. They are amazing. You can also find them on Dixie Cryptids YouTube channel. I think that's right.
Yeah. Cam's been narrating some of the audiobooks, and we've been putting them up on his channel for free. Yeah.
And they are a hit. Okay. I had somebody in England send me a link to that. So it's worldwide, DA, for sure. No doubt. So yeah. And you guys, please come join me on Saturday at the Molina Bigfoot Festival down in Pike County, Georgia. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be speaking there. I go on stage at 10 a.m. And by stage, it's probably a podium outside somewhere. So.
I wish I was closer so I could come see you.
Well, thank you, DA. Yeah, it's going to be fun. We're going to have my team's going to be there. Trey Hudson's going to be talking. He's going to actually give a big presentation on the meadow and show the footage of the portal opening up out there. So anybody who's interested in all that, please come and join us. You're going to get a good dose of the meadow this weekend. So yeah, well, this has been a ton of fun. You guys, I no longer am going to be doing my remote viewing investigation show on Friday nights. And so I'm probably going to start kind of combining remote viewing with my daytime show here for a while. I might even start another show. Who knows? But join me this weekend. I have Tyler Howell from the Florida Panhandle. He's a Bigfoot skunk ape researcher from Florida coming on Spaced Out Radio Saturday night. And then Sunday, I have Toby Johnson from the Owl Moon Lab. And you guys might know him from Flash of Beauty, that awesome documentary movie that's been out. Yeah, Toby's coming on Sunday. So it's going to be a great weekend, y'all. DA, thanks again so much for being here today. I think this was a great show. I think we went down a fantastic rabbit hole like none other today. So I hope we can do this again.
Hey, and I'm always down.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, y'all. Well, I will see you guys this weekend. DA will see you tonight. All right.
All right. See you tonight.
All right. Bye, y'all.